Hello, and welcome to the Neurodiverse Collaborative podcast, where we share voices, stories, and ideas from the neurodiverse community. I'm your host, Jill Truffaut, and in each episode, we explore collaboration, creativity, and the amazing things happening in our community. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the dad perspective with Dale Fairclough and John Scott.
I think leading with strengths is just really important, and that's not a way that I was taught.
Yes.
Once skills were assessed and you knew abilities, you geared the programs towards things that were a problem, that might be impeding, maybe socialization or friendships or just success in many areas. So goals are usually made to figure out what you need to stop doing.
Yes.
So,
focus on the problem.
Yes.
How to just make it stop.
Yeah. But and there's in a functional analysis and your FBAs, you study, you learn, you look at your antecedents, whatever happens right before this behavior. But then you also have your motivating operations and your setting events, and there's so many things that could impact what is affecting someone more than the basics that you're given for doing an FBA.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are not directly observable.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And I found that was the thing when you have other behavior analysts that are, consulting in a classroom, and you're just different times when you professional, drawing a blank on my word, trainings, where maybe you have a whole bunch of, behavior analysts. And when you hear that, well, what happened right before? And they always say, don't ever say it just came out of nowhere. Well, in my mind, I know that there's things that could be going on in my mind that are affecting what I do, but nobody can directly observe that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, but they don't like it when you go, but what if I don't have access to the things that are prompting?
Yeah.
That's been my question. I'm like, they're occurring. I just don't have access to them.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on. And I feel like that's the huge piece where, like, that presuming intelligence, like, there's reasons for behaviors. It's not just out of nowhere. It's not just, this kid hauled off and punched somebody in the face for absolutely no reason, whether it was observed or not.
There was a reason.
Was that, like, whether that was sensory or being just picked on or something in repeated number of times that was missed, or maybe one time and it was missed, but there's always something that is driving that behavior.
Oh, yes. I do remember it being drilled in my head when I first started that all behavior has a function. All behavior has a function. And sometimes, that sort of got lost. But then all behavior has a function. Like everything you do, even if it's just because it makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's the function of it. There's a reason. Why can't that be the reason? Okay.
Yes. And I feel like a lot of times in, like, the stereotypical ABA, a lot of that reason is kind of lumped into, non-compliance.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really the reason that these kids are acting out or not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like, there's so much more under that, and those issues need to get addressed.
Yeah. Once you start working with other therapists and you get involved and you hear different perspectives, from a speech therapist or an occupational therapist, and then you start, that's when you really open your mind up to all the possibilities of things that could be going on with that child or with that person that you're not going to observe unless you take the time to know what it is. Like, maybe there's a child who's kicking his shoes up, doing whatever. Maybe it's the socks that are bothering him. There's something genetic. You don't know these things. There's so many little things that could be causing a bigger behavior.
Yeah.
All from just, your things with, like, the material of your shirt was rubbing wrong. It just,
yes.
If that is bothering you, we might laugh at that. Like, oh, okay, the shirt's rough and it's bothering you. But if you're somebody who is sensitive to that, and say you've been wearing that shirt since your mom picked it up for you and put it there and sent you off to school. So since maybe breakfast, you've had this shirt on, and every time you move, it's just rubbing and it's irritating. And you're just trying to hold it together and just go about your day. And then maybe you've been irritated by this for so long that one thing happens and it's just more than you can handle.
Yeah.
And it looks like it just came completely out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But it's like, how many hours can you withstand having something that's making you feel like your skin crawls?
Yes, absolutely. And then potentially all the other sensory stuff that's going on in the room that
Yeah.
necessarily associating with being potentially a trigger. So yeah, I know me and you kind of agree on a lot of like the collaborativeness. Like,
Oh gosh, yeah.
I've learned a ton from speech therapists and occupational therapists, and I know there's a lot of stuff out there that seems to kind of pit like the occupational therapy and speech therapists against the behavior typical ABA kind of things, and it's
Yeah.
like sometimes those views clash. But I see why, because there's a lot of ABA therapists that don't look for or don't educate themselves enough to be able to spot when there could be something that's impacting the behavior that looks like a behavior, but that's really caused by the inability to communicate or
Yeah.
a sensory issue like you're describing. Like, that's, as behavior specialists, we need to know that, because that's 100% could be a function of the behavior. It's not just, it shouldn't just get written off as, oh, non-compliance.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. I know my first time working with a student who wasn't able to express himself in a way that was understood, by anybody else. So in working with him, I finally really understood all of the aggressive behaviors that he would have, and all just so physical in so many ways. And if you put yourself in that position of thinking, if I don't have a way to communicate my basic needs and wants to another person in order to have them met, I I would 100% be lashing out in whatever ways. And that's where you look at your speech therapist. Another one, like, and an occupational therapist is so good at just kind of helping with kind of regulating, bringing them down, like in terms of a lot of that overstimulation and stuff. And then if you get a speech therapist who has some way of bringing in communication, if it's not verbal, some way,
Yeah,
like that person just needs to be understood.
absolutely. And that needs
And
to be emphasized.
oh yeah, it's so understandable. Like once I actually tried to imagine how it felt to not be able to express any of these things. Yeah, I was so much more understanding with a lot of different behaviors.
Yes.
But yeah, the speech therapist NOT have taught me so many wonderful things,
Yes.
over the years. It's great. And it really can and should be a collaborative effort between, because you're not getting a full picture.
Yes, that's like, you need the whole picture to be able to really effectively be able to work with the person. And I feel like
Mhm.
really the basic is the presuming intelligence too, like treating them age appropriately. Like, I know there's a lot of times where I hear someone say, oh, well, this person is 15, but mentally they're 3. You can't determine how they are intellectually or that they're mentally 3 if they can't communicate.
No, like
Assumption would be that they are intellectually 15 years old, and you have to try to meet their needs and work with them as a 15-year-old. That's respectful. Like, I feel like that's
yeah,
um
yeah. And sometimes it's like a developmentally, they say they're a certain age for something, which some of those things, if it has to do with development, some of those things can be. But yeah, you can't say that somebody is intellectually
right.
another age. Just they need to be treated what is appropriate for their age, and then whatever modifications or adjustments you need to make
Exactly.
based on feedback from that person.
Yeah, because they
And
might not have all of the skills necessarily, like developmentally. Like, yes, they might need help with handwriting or pointing or motor movements for sure.
yeah,
um,
but that's not intelligence.
yes, that's not intelligence. This is a different skill.
Yep, yep. And I just felt like that was like a distinction that like just because developmentally, you are talking about a 3-year old, definitely not the same thing
Yeah,
as intellectually being at that age.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
like you said, it's just disrespectful.
Yeah, and then I feel like that's everyone on the team treats that person differently. If that's the expectation, is that, oh, well, you know, it's really as if they're younger than whatever their age level is. It's a totally different mindset. Like, once you really start to embrace that mindset, like that presuming intelligence, you start to see totally different person. Because they know they can sense your expectations for them and they meet those. Like if you're treating somebody like they can't put on their shoe and you're just going to do it for them, it's the path of least resistance. That's
Yeah.
a basic human thing. Like somebody's going to put my shoe on me for every morning when I get up, I'm going to let them.
Yeah. And if I suddenly decide I'm going to do it one morning, they're going to get really excited and they're going to tell me what a great job I did. Maybe I'll do that on Wednesday. It,
Right, yeah. So I mean, like, yes, just having age appropriate expectations and like, yes, and providing accommodations as needed. So because
if you're never challenged or given the opportunity to find out if you can do something,
yes,
how do you know? It,
you first need to have the belief in yourself that you can do it. And a lot of
mhm.
times that comes from an outside source.
Yeah.
So even like personally, like there's sometimes where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then somebody else, like a coach or a mentor or something, has said, you can absolutely do that. Like, do it, set a timeline and get it done. So yeah,
Yes.
you do need that teacher or that coach or that mentor to set
Well, I
expectations.
totally do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, because my first instinct is to doubt myself. But you know what? But if somebody is going to give me encouragement, and if they're going to also tell me you're going to do it because you can do, back it up, then okay, I'm going to believe you.
oh, I'm here for you. I'll help you get to that goal. If that's your goal, let's do it.
Yeah.
Have that social support too. Um, but yeah, I definitely have seen there's just a drastic difference between the not great experiences and even like abusive experiences that people have had with ABA and um, the way that I personally do behavior specialist work. And I know you are on the same page. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, we don't do things the same as the other group of people.
No, it's again going back to finding those strengths, and that's never been a starting point
Yes.
with ABA. That's not how I was taught to do anything. I mean, I've been lucky that I've worked with some wonderful BCBAs and ABAs who, I mean, I'll be honest, when I was first introduced to it, I mean, I think that maybe this one teacher was the amount of competence that she presumed in all these kids. I was shocked, and that was before I even knew the phrase of
Yeah.
any of it. Like the fact that she her first her first movement was always not isolation in any way, not correcting things. It was always no, just have the kids all together, find out what they want,
Yes.
so that was wonderful before I even learned all the all the technical, the educational part
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
it. I got I got to learn that. And I definitely learned all the other things in ABA that but the fact that it was all started, to be about socially significant behaviors. It's just a part, but that's just one of the ones that really sticks, and I think I can like latch onto a little bit more. Like it has to matter,
Yes.
like we're not working with people to have them do things just for the sake of doing it,
Yes. Exactly.
to meet some arbitrary goal that they've been given to complete a task without any consideration for what would be significant to that person, to their family, to their life,
Yeah.
you know?
And I know we talked about like including, making sure that person's voice is included or their preferences and likes are included in that conversation about their goals. Like
Mhm.
the first and foremost thing that you're talking about is, okay, well, what does this person want to do? Um, it's not always school related. Sometimes it's just life, like figuring out what
Yeah.
they really enjoy working on. And yeah, not having like, oh, well, they need to sit down and write for 3 minutes or, they need to, a lot of these workshops and stuff like, oh, they need to fold towels or t-shirts for 3 hours out of the day just for them to be unfolded at the end of the day. Like, Why?
Yeah. I mean, that can, I even just as you said that, just that whole feeling of if there is any sense of pride or accomplishment felt in doing that, he's gone when
Yes. And for the staff then too, like, so the staff are working with these people, having them fold t-shirts throughout the day. And at the end of the day, they're unfolding and undoing all of their work just to do it again the next day. Like, what does that say to how does that make the staff feel about the people that they're working with? Like,
it,
I can't imagine that that's a healthy relationship, or I don't know. To me, it's just,
yeah, no, because when I see that, it's, you're just wondering if they're just thinking at that point of, well, why did I do that? And how likely are you to want to do that again
yeah, I have to
when
do
you
it
know?
tomorrow. And then, oh, a behavior pops up
Hmm.
shop where Johnny's throwing a t-shirt across the room now. Well, it doesn't matter if he folds it or not. You're going to unfold it at the end of the day. I don't I don't necessarily disagree with that behavior.
Nope. I'm not either. Just, you just ruined all my work. Okay. Like I did this perfectly yesterday and you undid it. So why am I going to do it today?
Like, or eventually there's refusal behavior or avoidance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Because in their mind, you undo it every time I do it.
right. To me, that's an appropriate response to that situation.
Yeah, this is a logical course of events in my mind. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I would love to take a magic wand to and just hit everywhere. But I know behavior kind of gets lumped into the whole lifespan. Like we deal with behaviors from early intervention through adulthood. So
Yeah.
the scope is pretty wide as far as what we see. And it's just like the younger years, yes, you're definitely focused on compliance. Compliance is important because your 2-year-old or 3-year-old or 4-year-old cannot run out in the middle of the street. Like
Yes.
that has to be worked on as a compliance goal.
As you would with any child.
Yes.
Like you need all children to know that they're going to listen to you. But as you say, there's a reason for it.
Yeah. Safety first, and it's age appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Compliance is something that you work on from, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 to 6, 7, right? And then you start to shift your focus naturally is more on the cooperation, not necessarily compliance. You want them to willingly want to cooperate with you because you've developed that personal and positive relationship, and they should
be more of a part of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, for sure. No, it makes total sense. I don't know. I guess at some point, depending on how things go with that person over there, I don't know if sometimes you just stop trying to find out these things, or like, I mean, if you're not aware of like strengths and interests and all these things about a person, like how are you going to understand what's going to motivate them to want to do something?
Yes, and I feel like that part isn't talked about or thought about enough, because it's a lot of times it's just like, oh well, if we start this task we have to finish it. Do we really? Whose goal is it and why? Like if it's teacher directed, that's probably appropriate for a child to start a task and then to remain on task for 7 to 10 minutes. Okay, that seems to be reasonable. But once we get into older young adult and adults, if they're choosing something to work on for fun or to do at leisure, like is it still appropriate to have that, like, oh, if you start it you have to finish it? I don't know. I feel like it kind of shifts over our lifetime to more choices, more independence. Like ultimately, like we talk about building independent skills, but then a lot of people in the ABA behavioral field, that independence somehow doesn't always get translated to independent choices. So yeah, we're building independent skills. We also need to focus on independent choices and respecting them and respecting those boundaries too.
Yeah, you could start at one end of my house and follow all of my unfinished projects and various things all the way to the other. It's,
yes.
I'm not necessarily merely going to finish a task just because I started it and just because I wanted to when I started it.
That's right.
Still doesn't mean I'm going to finish it.
You
That's okay.
walk away. And sometimes, would it help if you had somebody there saying like, "Hey, do you want to come back to this?" It would. Maybe you'd be like, "No, I'm good. I'm on to the next thing."
Yes, no, not feeling it anymore. Nope, nope. You know? But again, if there's a reason for it, as you said, if it's a teacher director, if it's your job, you sure, then you should probably finish. Okay.
So taking into consideration though too, like a lot of that, what we were talking about before, like the sensory stuff. So if you're able to observe and kind of identify that there could be some kind of sensory trigger or internal trigger or whatever behavior, there's always a reason for behavior. So someone's not jumping up and running across the room for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they just got a surge of energy. Even that, like that's not no reason, right? Like that's because they got
I've learned to do that myself.
they're feeling like they're about to be dysregulated. They got to get it out. So that's again like more of that sensory component, but identifying that, and it's not necessarily always escape or avoidance. It's there's deeper meanings behind all of that.
Oh, yes. My son had he was a little bit of a problem child for a little bit, but turns out he was problem solving on his own. Okay, like he would finish before the other kids on something, and he would sometimes get a little disruptive when he had to sit quietly on
Yeah.
there. So he took matters into his own hand. He said he would just go to the restroom.
Okay.
Yep. So he went to the restroom, and then somebody taught him how to blow bubbles with the soap machine. There was a whole. It turned into some other things, but it started. He was trying to problem solve.
Yeah, so that was good intentions.
Like it was kind of like for this. Okay, like he knew he was getting in trouble in the classroom, so he left. Okay,
He was taking his trouble elsewhere.
he was. Yes, but they were there were different reasons that they were thinking for him doing these different things, and after talking with him, like I honestly couldn't help but just laugh because I'm like he's problem solving.
And he knew that he couldn't sit still and quiet. He needed some other type of activity to keep his body and his mind going. That's hard for a kid to have to keep all that in.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, good job trying to problem solve. you know? We'll work on the strategies, but he knew, and I had to be proud of that he was able to recognize it, and he tried to do something with it.
Yes. And recognizing that's a valid need. Like he's not doing stuff to get in trouble. Like he's obviously recognizing that that's a need that his body has and his mind has, and just trying to fill that.
I mean, he's in second grade. He was like 6 or 7. What 6 or 7-year-old boy can just sit still quietly? Okay.
That's a big problem that I'm seeing too. It's like the expectations are not matching up with the age group. Even kindergartners, they expect them to sit and participate and not move their little bodies all over the place. So
And I don't think that's normal.
no, it's hard.
Like their little bodies just move so much, and yeah, I feel like that forcing to sit in one location, and and maybe it's something fun that's happening,
Yeah.
and they want to get up and move around with the fun, but they're not allowed because it's not time for that.
Circle area.
Yeah. And it just doesn't. I feel like it doesn't really encourage like that free expression of.
And just getting that physical energy out too, like especially with a lot of, I mean, typical kids too, but like especially the neurodivergent kids, ADHD, autism, whatever, like they have a higher energy need and energy need, but level of input that
Yes.
they need to get that physical activity and so much more input to just regulate themselves.
Yeah, that was another cool thing learning from OT, like which kind of activities are really good for like what it is going on. Like, do you need a heavy work activity? Like
yes.
it's just amazing to watch how it can be helpful, and
yes.
And it could just be a child who is just going to get in trouble for having just more energy than he's got body or something, like but just the way those different things can help to just get your body, a little bit better under control is amazing.
Yes. I feel like in the behavioral health field, we need more of those intentional trainings on occupational therapy and speech therapy
Oh
too.
gosh.
Some of the stuff I kind of learned by accident. Like we used to, the one student that I worked with, we would push him on the swing and then we would trade. And I was doing it as like a turn taking. I'm like, yeah, okay, push me on the swing now. And they would push me on the swing. And then the OT was like, oh, that's actually really good for like pushing like the heavy work or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I just thought it was, we were like swapping out like turn taking kind of thing.
Great.
But it was, and he really enjoyed doing that and getting that interaction. But it was also really helpful for his sensory system too.
Which is great. Like,
there's a lot of information that we need from like the OT side and the speech side to be able to incorporate into our sessions, but then also into everyday life for these kids too, like any aides or people that work with them, or at home if there's parents that are active or any kind of caretakers that are active in their lives, like they need those strategies too. Just making
yeah.
the whole team is on the same page.
Oh, for sure. Like I sometimes just sitting in a chair, especially when you have someone who has all that energy or they have whatever, and sometimes you get like little wiggle things to sit in or a rubber band for your feet. You have things, but like I don't think it's natural to have to sit in a chair for a long period of time straight. Just
Yes.
they should be normal. I say I'll show you sometime, but I got a really cool chair for my desk so I can sit like cross-legged.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, I'll show you sometime. But yeah, that has helped me immensely with being able to sit at the desk, because there's like a second level that my feet can go on and I can just tuck them right under me and I can still sit here at the desk. And it's just one more thing that, I struggle with sitting. So,
Yes.
any little thing that can help, and this is where I just feel like everybody just understanding yourself.
Yes.
What you need, like, especially when you're somebody who's, not as typical as others. You got to learn your things and what it is, that really settles you down. And also one thing, like, since I get very excited quickly, sometimes working with people who are maybe sensitive to people who get excited quickly, that's a challenge for me as a like trying to keep myself down so as not to upset someone else. And it's amazing how I can do it if I know it's going to upset someone else.
Yes. Have that filter. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's just things that you just learn about yourself, and a lot of these are things that maybe somebody else might not know.
But, yeah. Yes, because at one point we didn't know, right? It's like just lifelong learning. Like I know I didn't really know anything coming into the field, and just observing and kind of picking up pieces from each therapist and person that I've worked with over the years. Like I feel like the most that I've learned is really from like the individuals that I've worked with, and like kind of understanding like their perspective, or having like autistic adults kind of explain to me like what their experience has been as far as sensory, because like a lot of that stuff I don't pick up. So I know the sensory is huge, and there's a lot of people that you either have that experience or you don't. And like if you don't, it's harder to be able to, you can't identify it, because if you don't hear it yourself, you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just taking those neurodivergent experiences and perspectives, and I know the goal is always to have that as like the focus and like the voices in the conversations. So
yeah, I just think it's kind of an exciting time, sort of, because you do hear more about neurodivergent, where you might have just been the weirdo, back in school, but now there's a fancy term for it, and but in doing that, it's an acceptance. It's a little bit freeing. It's making people less afraid to talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. I know we kind of talked about earlier, me and you, about kind of just realizing like later in life that we're neurodivergent, and kind of social media really having a big role in that, like seeing stuff on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or Reels or whatever, like that are just coming across our screen, and like specifically women like describing like, okay, yeah, this is what it's like for me with ADHD. And even like me being in the field working with kids with autism and ADHD and other things, seeing other stories of women with ADHD, like I didn't associate a lot of stuff that I did or experienced with ADHD until I saw other people talking about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was not normal because I same, right? Like,
Yeah.
I knew I had ADHD. It just I didn't realize all of the other things that were kind of part of that. So,
Yeah.
and I don't think that information was ever really available prior to that. It's just a lot has come out within the last like 5 years or so from people really explaining their experiences and kind of connecting the dots.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, growing up, just, I had one friend with ADHD, and my ADHD is very different from hers. Okay. But I didn't know I had it then. Sometimes you look at those report cards and your comments from the teachers over the years, you're like, it was all right there. It was all right there. But also, it's one of it kind of almost makes you a little sad when you're older and you realize it. Because again, you just knew I was weird. That was okay. I mean, I don't know. I'll hang my weird flag. I'm okay with that. Like, it's not an insult in my book unless I say, "Ew, that's weird." Then that's different. Okay. But in general, it's just quirky, weird, whatever. But the more of myself that I think I kind of discover and know, it just opens my mind a little bit more to the possibilities of what could be going on with someone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, because you don't necessarily know that something can be a thing until you know it's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure how else to say that. Like, it's just you just suddenly you realize it.
Yeah. It helps to explain a lot of things though too. And I know some people, I feel like there's kind of controversy over labels and stuff and like um how some people like really identify with labels, and that's fine. If that's what they do, that's what makes them happy, and that's part of who they are ultimately. And then there's people that like completely disagree and it's just, oh, it's just a label, it doesn't define you. But if these traits are all part of something that is ultimately like how your brain functions,
Yeah.
it is part of you, and it's not a bad thing. It's not saying that like, oh well, I have ADHD therefore I can't do this or I have to do this. It's not necessarily like stereotyping, but it explains a lot.
It does. And the things that you say or do, whatever, that give you that label, they exist whether you call it by that label or not.
Yes.
And I don't know, there's some saying about something with being a zebra, something, then knowing that you're a zebra and not just a weird horse or something. Like, it's about the importance of labels. I'll have to find that. Probably should have kept that one in my head. But yeah, that's why that's
Knowing that there's other people that share
yes,
similar traits and like, oh, okay,
yes,
cool. It's not necessarily like that needs to be all of your personality or whatever, but like just to know that that's the explanation for it, right?
and there's comfort in like a shared experience that has always felt isolating,
Yeah.
maybe to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Can
yeah,
relate.
and
Yeah, that happens in my brain too. Oh, well,
like, what? Like, wait, you do that? Like sometimes there could be something that like maybe you've never told like another person, and all of a sudden you see a reel, and there it is, and you're quite, and it can just be mind blowing.
yes.
You
And
know,
they have great little tips that actually help too.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, that happens in my brain, and this is what I do, and I'm like, oh.
yeah. It's like I know I love it when I hear these other things because depending on how somebody describes it, you're like, ooh. Oh, I like that, and you're like, that might work for me. But maybe you're like, maybe I just need to tweak it a little bit, and I think then it'll work for me.
Yeah,
And that is really something you can only get by really understanding the different, your whole picture, I guess, kind of, like just the way that you think, the way you act, your regulation, your
yeah,
sensory, all of it. Without knowing those things, you might not hear something and go, oh, I think that would be helpful, or because then you hear something else, you're like, oh, that's not gonna work. Like,
yes, for sure. There's lots of stuff that I hear. I'm like, no, try that.
yeah, I'm like, no. I'm like, no, because you wouldn't know what I'm gonna do when I do that. Like, and I can tell you how I'm gonna be difficult in that situation. Like, I'll know ahead of time, this is why it's not going to work, because I'm going to do this, this, and this. Like, well, you could just not do it. Yeah, I could, but that's not what's going to happen. It's just, when you know that your brain just works differently,
Yes.
it's not a matter of just being difficult, or inflexible. Any word that you want to use with it, it's just you just know yourself.
Yes, exactly. And it's okay that it's different. It's just then to adjust your expectations to that being different. Like it's not less or more than anything else. It's different. It is what it is.
It's like you're not necessarily having a judgment to it in any way is anything. It's just different,
Yes.
and you just need to know like how to do it, like in the same way that you would probably, with a child, like your own child. You see something going on, you're like, okay, how can I make this better or work for him?
Yeah.
You just have to learn yourself and try and figure out those things. At least that's what I do.
Every individual is individual, and it's a matter of time to learn that person and try to figure out what works for them and why maybe things don't work for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and without understanding the little specifics of, maybe your triggers or your, just other things that go on, you're not going to know.
Yes. It's hard to figure out sometimes too. I feel like there's probably been times where you're trying to address the behavior in a certain way, and then you find out that like, oh, that's not really what's the underlying cause of the behavior. So you got to kind of switch up strategies.
Yeah.
Switch it up. Like but to be open-minded enough to still look for other clues as far as where that's coming from. Like if your strategy isn't working, then during that process, you should always be looking for other clues as far as what's truly causing that behavior too.
Yeah, I feel like even if it is working, you should still be looking in what are the signs, like what are the things that you're seeing that are telling you that it is.
Yes.
Because it could be that there's like particular things that maybe there's something else that you could add on because of those. I just find that the more you observe, a person, a situation, whatever, sometimes things are just always evolving, and you have to keep your mind open to that and not locked in to what you thought initially, because maybe there's just a couple more little pieces that you didn't have then, that once you do get them, it gives you that better picture and will better direct your plan.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Neurodiverse Collaborative podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also connect with us at neurodiversecollab.net to learn more about our community, resources, and events. I'm Jill Truffaut, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.